Today we're going to talk about something that I think is really important, which is ergonomics. And one of the things that I've been interested to see is, as I'm doing more and more research here these last couple of months and weeks, and now especially the last couple of days leading up to this, is I'm realizing how much bad information there is on the internet. Just Google ergonomics sometimes, and you're going to see a bunch of stuff come up, and a lot of it is really not good. So I'm really glad that y'all are here to see what we think is really more of a proper way to think about ergonomics and how your body should be positioned during the day, because there's a lot of bad information out there. Ergonomics, of course, the study of positions which make a person's butt numb, the neck ache, their head throb, and their hemorrhoids flare up, right? Not really, of course. That's what happens when it's done incorrectly. But when it's done correctly, ergonomics truly is the study of designing equipment and devices that fit the human body, its movements, and its cognitive abilities. You see the last couple words up there? It's cognitive abilities. That's going to be huge, right? Because if you're sitting in a posture that doesn't promote good positioning and good neural integrity in your body, your cognitive abilities are going to go way down the drain in a day. So think about what stress does to a person in a day. And by the way, when you pull up ergonomics on the internet, this picture that you see right here is one of the most common ones you're going to see, and it's wrong. And I love it because they go, it's 90, 90, 90, she's got her lumbar support, she's got all this stuff. It's wrong, and I'm going to show you why, okay? So, but this picture is just so common, I thought I'd put it up there just so that y'all can see what people are putting out there as far as being ergonomically correct. And if you have people at your office that come and do ergonomics, they may adhere to this. And I'm not telling you that you should say to them, oh no, don't set me up this way, but set yourself up correctly once you understand how this is all coming together. So, and I'll tell you why some of these things are wrong, and we'll get into more about it. But the cognitive abilities is a big part of it, right? Because if you're at work and you're stressed and your body's stressed and it's not functioning and it's not flowing correctly and things aren't working, that's going to be a big, huge mental drain on you during the day, right? So if you're stressed and your body's tired, or if you get a headache, that's a big deal. So here's just a little cartoon thing. And one of the things that I think about when I talk about ergonomics is I'll mention the word to people. Well, how are your ergonomics? Well, they come in and they set me up, and I've got this way, and my neck this way, and my body this way, and I'm tilted like this. And I thought this was kind of funny because he says, let's get you ergonomic, let's get you set up for better ergonomics, better productivity, okay? Step 1, feet flat on the floor. So he uncrosses his legs, feet flat on the floor. Number 2, step 2, arms relaxed, forearms level with the work surface. He's chaining his feet to the floor. Step 3, eyes looking straight at the monitor. He's got his wrists strapped to the keyboard, and then finally the head clamp to hold the position in. What I want you guys to understand is it's not about that. And obviously this is a joke, it's a cartoon, but it's not about feet firmly on the floor and this and this and this and all these specific positions. In order to function well, we have to move well, okay? So your desk and your workstation has to be set up for you to be dynamic. You have to move throughout the day. If you get in one position and stay there all day long, I don't care how good that position is, it's bad for you. You have to move throughout the day. That is the key. So that's why I thought this was pretty applicable. So why are ergonomics important? First we have to discuss this. Obviously, for us, ergonomics are important. For you, because you want to feel well, you want to function well. In order to get the max benefit out of your body throughout your workday, in order to be productive for you, you have to have good ergonomics. And you want to feel well at the end of the day, right? If you go to work all day and you're kicked out in your chair and you're doing your thing and you're drinking your energy drinks and doing your thing all day, you're going to go home exhausted and cashed out. You don't have time for your family. You don't have time for a workout, much less to make a good dinner and to get a good night's sleep, because your body's just reeling from what you did all day. But if you talk to your work site and want to tell them why ergonomics are important, it's all about the dollars, right? So here, let's talk about it. The average office loses over $7,300 per employee per year in poor productivity and medical and workers' compensation claims. That's from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's kind of a big deal, right? How many people work in your office? Start putting that number together. $7,300 on average per employee per year. So this is huge. This is a big deal. Hi guys, come on in. Welcome. We're pretty informal around here. So this is a big deal. If you guys if you guys think that this isn't important to your company, I guarantee you this is important to your company, okay? If people are going home early because they're sick, or they don't feel well, or they have headaches, or they're stressed, or they're not well, and then they're making, you know, compensation claims because of it, this is huge to your company. So if you start talking to them about, hey, you know what, I need a different workstation so that I can be more productive, I dare to bet that more and more people are going to start paying attention to your requests. So when you come to them with ideas for things that you want to do, it's going to really pay off for them. By the way, 50% of this money is due to low back injuries, and poor chair design contributes to poor seated posture. So if you get into a work chair like this and it's not appropriate for you and it's causing back pain, this is a huge financial toll on your company. The bill for lost productivity and back-related health care totals about $100 billion a year. So yeah, $7,300 here, $7,300 there. Pretty soon we're talking about real money, right? $100 billion per year. There appears to be a national trend toward increasing numbers of people with chronic lower back pain, which causes impairment. The National Health Interview Survey showed that lower back pain and neck pain increased from 3.2% of the population in 1997 to 8.3% in 2006. So pay attention to that number. From 1997 to 2006, that's not very long, right? We're talking, what, 9 years? In 9 years, that number is almost tripled from 3.2% to 8.3%. So we're talking about some serious numbers. When you talk about the national average of people and how many people are being affected by this, and how many of those people are under chiropractic care, I'd like to know that, okay? Probably not nearly enough of them. We're not servicing nearly enough of the population yet, but we're getting there. So this is a big deal. When we start talking about ergonomics and cost to your company, this is huge. It's out of control now. So I found this statistic and I thought it was pretty cool. General Motors now spends more on health care than steel. Does that resonate with anybody? What are cars made of? Steel, right? And we're spending more on health care, giving the company labor costs at least $20 per hour higher than foreign competitors. Noted less frequently is that GM is far from unique. Ford, even with a better health care structure than GM, also spends more on health than on steel. Oh, but those guys and gals working the factory lines at GM and Ford, that's hard work, right? Heavy lifting, lots of standing, lots of bending. It goes on to say the Starbucks company, Chairman Howard Schultz reported that his company spends more on healthcare than coffee beans. So it's not just about that particular job. Healthcare is a major, major factor in these companies' decisions and how they spend their money. It's costing a lot of money. And ergonomics and how you hold your body during the day are a huge part of this. So, why the increase? Why are we seeing these dramatic increases? In the last 10 years, these numbers are tripling, and it's a big deal. Here's a very good example of why we're seeing this increase. Who doesn't like to go home and cash out on the couch a little bit, maybe pull up the laptop, watch a few videos, maybe stream some television, write some emails? Nice young lady, looks like she's probably in good shape, but look how she's sitting. You know, she's just relaxing. But if she spends 30 minutes that way, is that going to affect her spine? What if she sits at a computer all day, because that's her job, and she's in poor posture, and her body's in bad position, and then she goes home and she does that for the next 3 hours before she goes and lays inappropriately in bed? You think she's going to have problems when she gets a little older? How about this? How many of you see this? This is huge. Look at these kids. This is just a random picture off the internet of kids gaming. But look how they're sitting. Look at this kid. He's got his shoulders up, arms forward, head down. He's not too far from the TV. She's sitting over here with forward head posture, chins out, shoulders forward. And we wonder why kids are having trouble with their bodies, why they're having trouble assimilating. Because A, number one, they don't exercise enough. That's a big problem. But B, this is what they do, and look at the posture they're doing it in. I'm not even saying that playing a few video games once in a while is the end of humanity as we know it. But if they sit like this for a while, they're going to have some serious problems. Going on, it's not just the young people. Here we are in, I mean, this is the House or the Senate or wherever they're at, and look at how they're standing. They're texting, right? And this is probably a really cool thing because they're connecting with the younger population, right? Here she is. But look at how they're all standing. Shoulders down, head down, arms out. They're going to have serious neck problems, and this is only getting more prevalent. This I'm seeing a lot in the office. People come in, they're texting, because it used to be everybody's on the phone. Well, now our phones are down here and we're texting, and it's only getting worse. It's not getting better. Let's talk about phone. So here we got our basic office corded phone, and she's sitting on the computer, head kicked over, here's this guy. Have any of you ever tried to hold your cell phone like that? I really can't do it. I can't quite, my phone's pretty slim, and in order to get it like that, I mean, maybe for 2 seconds, but this guy's obviously, I don't know if he's journaling or what he's doing, but he's writing with his phone on his shoulder. So obviously the ergonomics here are not good. If you're at your office and you need to be on your phone a lot during the day, please consider a headset. Please consider something that's wireless or something that can get you up that you're not holding your phone on your shoulder. Even those old school pillow cushion things like my dad had in his office all those years, where you could rest it on your shoulder, you're still going to kick over out of position. They're just not good for you. So if you're on the phone a lot, please consider getting a headset or something like that. Okay. So obviously we understand now ergonomics are a big deal. They cost your company a lot of money, they cost productivity, they cause people to be sick, they cause problems. But in order to understand what we consider abnormal or sick, we have to understand what is normal function and what is a normal appearance. Obviously when we talk about the spinal cord, we've got the vertebra, the bones that make up the back, right? We've got the disc in between, and the most important part is that integrity of that hole right there. So this is what it's all about. Everything that we care about with ergonomics is right here, this little hole. I really don't care about the rest of this stuff. I care about that right there, because coming out of that hole is that all-important nerve root. That's the lifeline of your body. And in order for your arm to contract and relax, in order for your liver to understand how many enzymes to create, in order for your bowel to do its job, in order for your lungs to work and breathe, that nerve has to come through that hole unimpeded. So obviously ergonomics are huge, but so is chiropractic, okay? Because we're the ones who are going to find these little integration problems, subluxations, and we're going to correct them and open up that space. Now, here's the thing that we always talk to people when we get into ergonomics. When you come in here and I adjust you, or one of the doctors adjusts you, and we work on this alignment, and we put things back into place, how long does that adjustment take? When you've had your neck set, how many seconds does that take? A fraction of 1 second, right? What do you do the other 24 hours of that day? If you're laying on your laptop and talking on your cell phone and playing a video game and driving your car funny, it's hard to hold your adjustment right, okay? So we have to move appropriately throughout the day. You have to do things that are in your best interest, and we're going to get into that here a little bit. But when we create that adjustment, we're trying to open up that space to diminish that pressure on the nervous system so that the body can communicate effectively. It's like our poster in our exam room talks about the safety pin cycle, okay? In order for things to cycle through your body, for information to go through your body, it's like a closed safety pin. The loop has to be closed. Information comes from the brain down to the body. The body sends and receives signals back to the brain, and that communication flow has to go all the time. When we open a safety pin and we open that circuit, that's what subluxation does. Pressure on this nerve is like opening that circuit. That information can't flow, and it's either not flowing from the brain to the body, or it's not flowing back from the body to the brain, and that's a problem. Okay? So let's talk about some of these curves in here first, because this is important too. When you look at the outside ones, that's the spine from the front and from the back. And everybody realizes we want to have that nice straight spine, right? You got to have that nice straight curve, or lack of curve. Sometimes people have curves called scoliosis, and that can be a problem depending what else is going on in their spine. But here's the one we're going to really focus on today. How many of you ever really think about your spine from the side having these big curves in them, right? It's really important that we have these curves, and this is going to be the basis of what we're going to talk about the rest of the time. So pay attention to this picture. I can come back to it if we want. But check out these curves. See how it's kind of this nice S shape through here? So here's the bottom of the back. This is the front, and this is the back side. These spinuses, or these bumps, those are the bumps that you can feel in your back. Tailbone, or the sacrum, and the coccyx. And look at this big radical curve in here, okay? In order for these bones to protect those delicate nerves coming through here, we have to maintain the integrity of that curve. That's huge. And then up in the neck, there's another big curve, okay? And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that stuff as we go along. So, take a look at this guy. First of all, don't you think it's cool that somebody took the time to x-ray somebody in a chair? Isn't that incredible? I just think that's the coolest thing. And here's what I think is really cool about it. If you look at this picture, in general, it looks like a lot like that first picture I showed you where I said everybody references this picture when they're talking ergonomics. Look at this. Feet are flat on the floor. Knees are at roughly 90 degrees. Hips are at roughly 90 degrees. He's got a lumbar support. The arms aren't too bad. He's reaching a little bit, so you can see he's tilted forward a little bit. But look at the back. Look how flat this is. even with his lumbar support, hips at 90 degrees, knees at 90 degrees, feet flat on the floor, he has 0 lumbar curve. That is a problem. If you don't maintain lumbar curve, you're putting pressure on your lumbar nerve roots, okay? Those nerves go to your colon, they go to your bladder, they go to your reproductive organs, they go into your legs. Very important stuff. Those organs and those tissues and those joints need to work appropriately. And even with a decent posture here, what they consider decent, he's completely lost that lumbar curve. That's a problem. We're going to talk about that. Here's just more x-rays just to see what it really looks like. Here's that nice lumbar curve, the thoracic kyphosis, and then the cervical lordosis. How many of you remember your report of findings when you first came in as a patient here? We probably spent some time looking at your neck, because I'll dare to bet that most of you probably don't have a curve in your neck, or didn't when you first began care. Is that right? Anybody remember that? It's extremely common. I'm seeing it more and more and more and more. And the problem now is, we used to see it, now we're seeing it younger and younger and younger and younger. So the problem is, with all those activities that kids are doing, playing the games, talking on the phone, sitting in the desk, all these things, and they're not getting upright, they're not getting exercise, they're not getting adjusted, they're losing that cervical lordosis. So let's talk about this first, because I want to talk about a stand-up desk. How many of you have anybody at work that stands? Cool. How many of you stand at work? Anybody? Anybody have a stand-up desk? I put on here, could you stand a stand-up desk? If you'll notice, as you walk around Hassel Family Chiropractic, we don't have sit-down desks. We have stand-up desks, right? So obviously you know where we stand on this issue. I didn't think about that. Okay, if you look at that front desk is tall for a reason. And we have tall girls that work back there too, but it's tall for a reason. If you look at our workstations in our adjusting rooms, everything is upright. We don't sit down. We have some desks in our ROF rooms, but that's really more of just a formality. We don't really sit at those desks. So where our computers are, where our workstations are, where we spend the vast majority of our day, everything's upright, and that's for a reason. And even if you look at our workstations, look at Jackie and Kayla's workstations, you see how they've got little things built to get their monitors up high. They're both tall girls, so Dr. Hassel just had these things built to get their monitors up in the air. If you come back to our adjusting rooms next time, you'll notice that even our monitors are sitting on shelves, okay? So we've got them sitting on our x-ray cabinet, which is pretty high, but we've got little things built on top of that to get them up even higher. This gal really has a nice setup. I like the way this is put together, because if you look at the way she is, she's got a nice open desk that's at a nice height. Look at her lumbar curve. See that? See how she's standing there? So she's got a really nice lumbar curve. Her monitor's positioned up in the air. Here's another good thing. See where her keyboard is? She's got a nice descending angle on her elbows. We're going to talk about all this stuff, so I'll get into more of it. But how her arms come down, and then she's got a little descending angle in her elbows to get her arms down. But then she's got this little elevated station in front of her keyboard to prop up her reading material, so if she needs to type or look down, it's straight down in front of her, it's elevated so she can see it, but her monitor is up at her eye height, and that's really important. We'll get into some of that stuff. This is really a nice functional setup right here. Walk around some of the offices at Google and Facebook. You'll notice some of the tops of some of the desks are really high off the ground. It's not because some of the employees are really huge, though they may well be. It's actually for health reasons. I took this out of a newspaper article, so that's not my text. But this is at Facebook and Google, and what they're realizing, well, these companies are progressive, right? But they're not just progressive in the product that they're putting out, they're progressive in their employees. We had a patient here who used to work here in Des Moines. He got a job at Microsoft, and he just transferred out there maybe 3 months ago. And he wrote me like a week later, and he said, can you send in some recommendations based on my spine, all this stuff, because they're going to build me an ergonomic desk, whatever I need. And we ended up getting him a standing desk, which is really, really huge. So these companies are being really progressive, not just with their product, but with their employees. It's important. And they realize they don't want to lose, here's $7,300, $7,300. They don't want to lose that. And they're making money because they put out good products, but they're also making money because they're taking care of their employees. It's important. Ancillary benefits of standing. The simple act of standing up instead of sitting may help you burn as many as 50 more calories per hour. How many of you work out? How many of you know how long you have to run, walk, exercise, lift weights to burn 50 calories? It takes a little bit of time, right? You have to exert some energy. And all you have to do is stand up out of that chair, 50 more calories per hour depending on your size. Although 50 calories may not seem like a lot, In a 2,000 calorie day, making the standing adjustment for 4 hours out of that day can burn an extra 200 calories a day, leading to a 20-pound weight loss in the course of 1 year. Just by going from here to here, you burn 20 pounds in a year. Is that incredible? When I saw that number, I'm like, wow, this is really cool. I like that. So, are you just going to sit there? Obviously, this guy's not burning very many calories at all. He's crashed out. This is not a good position. So, I know some of you are going to say, yeah, but I can't do a standing ergonomic work desk. It doesn't work for my job. I get that. It doesn't work for everybody. It's not necessarily ideal for everybody. So we are going to talk about how to make your seated position far more ergonomically relevant than this, obviously. Okay, if you must sit, remember that, so here's the thing. We're going to talk about how to sit correctly, but everything I want you to understand is when we talk about sitting correctly, you have to move. It's important to move. If you are sitting in the most ergonomically correct station of all, and you go home and you still don't exercise, and you still don't get adjusted, and you still don't take care of your body, you're still only doing a small fraction of what it takes. We're talking about ergonomics tonight because I'm preaching to the choir here. A lot of you, most of you, all of you are getting adjusted, and if you're getting adjusted, you're doing a huge thing to incorporate this motion into your spine. What we want to talk about is protecting that position when you're in that seated position. So this gets really important. If you sit, you should be getting up frequently to move your body. Most research recommends that for every 50 minutes seated, there should be 10 minutes standing minimum. Okay? So when we tell you to get up and take breaks every 30 minutes, I'm not talking about get up and, a little hokey pokey and sit back down. You should be up for 10 minutes out of every hour. Now for some people that's no big deal. For a lot of you, you're getting up and going to the printer, you're walking here, you're going there, you're doing some things. So for a lot of you, it's not really that hard to incorporate 10 minutes of movement into each hour of the day. And I'll bet if you think about an 8-hour day, most of you can probably say, I could probably do that. If I'm not, I probably could. But the key is every 50 minutes. So it doesn't count if you sit for 4 hours straight and then get up and go do something for an hour. That's good, but it's not great. It's the accumulation of that seated time that causes a problem, because if you get into a seated position that's incorrect for you, you're immediately putting pressure on your nervous system. Any pressure on your nervous system is bad, automatically. We've got to get rid of it. Daily exercise utilizes a full range of motion and helps combat static fixation, and a minimum of 30 minutes of exercise per day. For any of you that were at my last class, I told you I went to a seminar once on exercise and nutrition, and this guy was adamant that if it's 11:30 at night and you're in bed and you haven't exercised, get up. You're not done. Your day is not over. You still have 30 minutes, you better exercise them. If you're laying in bed and you have not exercised that day, this is what he's saying. Get up and move. If you don't, you're on your way to dying. So you've got to be moving. You've got to be moving. You've got to be moving. So all of this stuff hinges on the fact that you are indeed exercising during the day. It's that important. Sitting ergonomically correct. So we're going to throw the old school thinking out the window. This is why. Okay, so I talked about this a few minutes ago. The lumbar spine, in the old 90-90-90 rule, it's not good because having your knees and trunk at 90 degrees flattens the lumbar spine, puts pressure in the popliteal fossa. Here's what I'm talking about. Can all of you see me or kind of see me? If I get into this office chair, this is a pretty typical office chair. We got it at Office Max, and a lot of you have sat in it. It's in my room all the time. We use it just to kind of sit there for hopefully just a few moments while you wait for your adjustment. But when you're in this position, I have this chair as high as it can go for me, and I'm only 5'11". So if you're taller than this, it's only worse for you, okay? If you're shorter, maybe it's not quite as bad. But I can sit in this chair at pretty much at 90-90-90, okay? So my ankles are at 90 degrees, feet are flat on the ground, knees are at 90 degrees, my back and hips are at 90 degrees. This is not a good position for me for a couple of reasons. Number one, when I sit back against this lumbar support, which it's supposed to be, my back is flat, okay? My back does not have a curve to it. My pelvis is tilted back into the lumbar support, which is giving me a little bit of cushioning, but it's not supporting my lumbar spine. It's not giving me that curve. The other problem is when you're at 90 degrees all the time, or greater than 90 degrees, we would say less than 90 degrees, if your feet are back into that angle and your knees are up, you're putting pressure in what's called the popliteal fossa. Now for some of you who are shorter than me, some of the gals in the room especially, if you sat back into this chair to get that 90-degree angle, it's going to put the front of this chair directly into the back of that knee. One of the biggest problems with that is when you compress that knee and put a little bit of pressure behind it, that's where we form blood clots, that's where we get stagnation, and that's where we end up with things like varicose veins, that's where we get swelling in the ankles, that's where we get those kind of problems. The popliteal fossa is like the armpit of the knee, okay? Y'all understand what I'm talking about when I say that? So that area back there is highly vascular, and it can lead to a lot of swelling if you're positioned inappropriately. That's why I don't like the old 90-90-90, because it immediately flattens your lumbar spine and it immediately puts pressure in your popliteal fossa. How many of you talk about if you go on a flight in an airplane and it's a long, long, long flight, you're supposed to get up and move around because you can get clots in your legs? This will do the exact same thing. That's why you get clots when you sit for a long time in an airplane, because that knee is bent and that blood's not coming back up through that popliteal fossa. So you swell down there, you can accumulate blood. The same thing can happen at work. People just don't pay attention to it. All right, so here's the old thing. Here she is, 90-90-90, and she's not in a good position. Now, some of these things are okay. I also don't like this 90. I just would like to throw all the 90s out the window. This is okay. She's at 18 to 24 inches. Her eye level's at the top of her monitor. I'm okay with that. I really like that. Okay? So she's doing one thing good. Okay, let's talk about the cervical spine or the neck. This is an ideal curve in the cervical spine. In order for our neck to function correctly, we kind of call it the arc of life, right? In order to function correctly, we have to have this posterior arch in the neck called the lordosis. We want that curve. If the head comes down and forward at all, that neck flattens and straightens. Look at this one. This is what walks in through our office door a lot. When that neck has been flat and straight over a period of time, a couple of things happen. And when you're sitting in that 90-90-90 back against the back of your chair and you're reaching for that computer a little bit, it's going to flatten that neck. Here's how I want you to think about this. If your head was a bowling ball and your head weighed 10 pounds, you went bowling this last week, didn't you? Yeah, she did. She went bowling. Are those bowling balls heavy?
A little bit.
A little bit heavy, but you could do it, right? Okay. So you're holding this bowling ball, and let's say it weighs 10 pounds, and you're holding it right here. 10-pound bowling ball is fairly heavy, right? If you're holding it like this, hold it like this once, and see how heavy it is. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go home and grab a gallon of milk or a gallon of water or whatever, and just hold it here once and see how heavy it is. Hold it like this just a little bit. It's basic physics. The further things get from the center of your body, the heavier they become because of the lever arm, right? So you've got this weight, and the further it gets away, the heavier it becomes. Look at your head when it falls forward. That head, this part of the upper part of the neck, should be here. And there should be a big arc in here. Think about bridges. When they engineer bridges, when they span a great distance, do they make the bridge flat? It might appear relatively flat, but what they're actually doing is they're arcing the bridge a little bit. So that way, as the weight of the bridge compresses down, it puts the weight on the ends of the bridge where it belongs. That's how you build a good suspension bridge. You put a little arc in it. God knew what he was doing when he put that arc in here, and he wants you to keep it. If you lose that arc in here and that head starts to fall forward, instead of that 10 pounds resting on the back joints of the neck, which are designed to hold it for the entirety of your life without any problems, the weight is now resting on the front of these discs. Now, when people think about discs, they often think that they're these compression absorbers, right? They're shock absorbers in your neck. That's not really true. They're spacers. They hold space open so that that delicate nerve, remember how important that nerve is, can come out in between those vertebrae. That's what's important about this. And when you get your head forward like that over time, it puts the weight of your body on that disc, which compresses it. That disc should be about 80% water. If you're not hydrated and you've got compression on it, these discs start to shrink over time, and then we get these big spurs. And here's the thing about this. These spurs out front are a problem. The spurs back here are a much bigger problem. Because that spur growing into the back of that neck puts compression directly on that delicate spinal nerve root. Those spinal nerve roots can tolerate no compression at all. Okay? So if you have compression because of spurring or misalignment or subluxation, you have major, major, major problems. Will it cause pain? Yes. Numbness? Yes. Will it cause tingling and loss of muscle function? Yes. Will it cause death? Yes. Okay? And for those of you who were at our last classes where we talked about inflammation and all these things and how the body controls and regulates those things, you can even go so far as to say, can something like this be associated with cancer? Sure, why not? If your body can't recognize cancer cells multiplying and dividing and doing their thing because these nerves aren't communicating effectively, are you going to be able to battle that stuff? No. So when I talk about sitting is dying, sitting is the new smoking, that's the real deal. You spend time like this and wind up with a neck like this, look at some of these things. Subluxation can lead to headache, neck stiffness, degenerative disc disease, poor respiration, cardiac complication, numbness in the arms and hands, carpal tunnel syndrome, sinus congestion, glandular congestion. All of these things happen when that head drops forward and it starts to compress. I like experiments. Do you guys want to try something? Sit up nice and straight for me. Everybody nice and straight. Pretend like you're really, really tall. So we got that string in the neck. We're going to pull ourselves up nice and straight and tall, big and tall. Okay, head back. Take a deep, deep breath, as deep as you can. Fill your lungs. Good. Slouch. Go back to where you were sitting. Okay? Drop the shoulders. Drop the head a little bit. Bring the head down just a little bit. Okay? Good computer situation. Take a deep breath. Deep as you can, and let it out. Now, this time, I want you to take as deep a breath as you can, but at the top of that breath, I want you to pull that string, get nice and tall, and see how much more air you can get in your lungs. Okay? Slouch position, take a deep breath. Sit up tall. Anybody notice the difference? Just by getting your head back and getting your shoulders back and expanding that cervical spine, you pull that body up, get that pressure off the diaphragm, expand the lungs, get some oxygen moving in that body. Simply sitting up straight, you'll move better oxygen, you're going to move better throughout your whole body, okay? This is important stuff. How does my neck affect my breathing? We just did that, okay? So if you're forward inflection causing a kyphosis, you're going to get limited oxygen exchange in your body. You want to know why you have that 2:30 crash and need that 5-hour energy shot they show on TV? Try not breathing all day. You get hypoxic, you get all this carbon dioxide buildup, you're acidic, your body's sluggish. Sit up and breathe a little bit. Get some movement. Go for a walk over lunch. Get some oxygen going through you. You ever wonder why we take long lunch around here? It's because we all go work out over lunch. We go run. And a lot of us you'll see running out around the lake here. Dr. Brianne runs really fast. The rest of us run moderately well. But you'll see us out running at the gym or running or working out because that exchange of oxygen is what gives us the energy to get through the afternoon and do what we do. So how do I do it correctly? Feet on the floor, it's okay for most. Okay, we're going to go through, these are the rules now, okay? Seated posture, this is what we want. Feet on the floor, it's okay for most of the time. It's good to have a little block to elevate the feet individually. I see you brought yours with you, that's good. Takes the pressure off the legs and hips periodically. So do you have to have both feet on all the time? No, because that can elevate the legs too high, okay? But if you lift one once in a while to take a little pressure off your hips, I'm okay with that, okay? So alternating, even if it's just a little 2x4, something to put your feet up on, a little block, a box, whatever you got. Take pressure off the popliteal fossa, the armpit of the knee. We got to get that pressure off there. When you're too far back in the chair, the pressure from the chair impacts the popliteal fossa and can cause edema, poor circulation, leading to pain, numbness, poor blood return, clotting, varicose veins. If you sit all day and don't exercise, do you think you'll end up with varicose veins and clotting problems? Sit discs. Okay, these are cool. Everybody see these things sitting around? There's lots of them, so if you don't have one, let me know. You guys have one? Are you on them?
I am.
You're on one? Okay. If anybody doesn't have one, let me know. I want to demonstrate it first here, and then I'm going to... These, aren't they great? Yeah. These are... when people come to my things, my talks, I want you to go home with something. I want you to go home with an understanding of something that can change you. It's not just about posture. These are simple little things that you can do. By the way, you can buy these if you want on the way out tonight. We can order more too. So these are really cool things. How many of you have seen people at work sitting on an exercise ball? It's good. That's an okay thing to do. But here's a simple way to do it without having to sit on an exercise ball. Sitting on this immediately elevates you to a little bit higher position. So for me, this chair suddenly fits me just because I got a little 2-inch riser, okay? The other cool thing that it does, if you sit on it, you'll notice it's a little wobbly, it's a little goofy, but when you get forward on that thing just a little bit into that posture, watch what happens to your pelvis. So instead of sitting like this, you're suddenly like this and that pelvis kind of falls forward. Look what that does to your lumbar spine. You see how I'm sitting? All of a sudden my pelvis tilts forward and I've got an arc in my lumbar spine. How about that? Coolest thing ever. 25 bucks and you can get a lumbar spine again. It's really cool. So we're upright, we got a little posture in here, and when you get a lumbar curve, try to slump with a good lumbar curve. You can't do it. If your pelvis comes forward and your stomach comes forward, your chest comes back, we breathe easier, the head comes back, and we protect that cervical curve. This little item, I think, is one of the coolest things that's come out in a long time for seated ergonomics. Now, here's another cool thing you can do with these, right? Put it on the ground and stand on it. When you get on these things and try to balance on them, if you like to exercise, let's say you're on a phone call. You know, could you do this while you're at work? Sure. Who doesn't have time to work out? Okay? It's very simple. Now, obviously, if you're falling off of it the first couple of weeks, they're going to know when you're on the phone, okay? So you might want to get good at it first. But if you're standing on this thing, could you lift weights on it at home? Sure. Why not? Because you're working not only your arms, you're working your core. What if you start to do some squats? Is that good? It's excellent. How about for ankle rehabilitation? What if you sprain your ankle and you want to stand on one ankle on it? It's great. Is that important for kids? Athletes? Football players? Of course. These things are really great. So simply getting on one of these on your chair can change your ergonomics dramatically, okay? Here's the other cool thing. Remember when I said going from seated to standing burns calories? Sitting on an exercise ball or a physio disc like this can burn up to an additional 350 calories per day. Isn't that easy?
What if I use 2?
That is awesome. I don't know that we can double the number, but you can sure try. So there's a simple solution. Not only are you improving your ergonomics, not only are you protecting your body, you're burning calories just by simply sitting at work. And I guarantee you put this on your chair, you're going to be the most popular person at work for about 3 weeks, because everybody's going to see you and they're going to be like, what's that? Everybody's going to want to try it, everybody's going to want to do it. But once you get used to this thing, they will really protect your back. I love these. You're going to see these in our office from now on. You're going to see them in the waiting room chairs, you're going to see them in our little booths, you're going to see them around, because we believe in them. We've just posted a letter that we just put up on the wall now. These are the things that we use. So it's the pillows we use, it's the sit discs we use, these are the vitamins we take. These are the things that we do. And so we're going to live it. So here's the deal. You're going to see these in our office. Monitor height. This is always a big question I get. It's a pretty simple answer. Computer monitor height should be at a height so that the top of the monitor is eye level when seated or standing with proper posture. Proper posture is the big key, okay? If your normal position is like this and you set that monitor height at that height, it's not good, okay? So you got to get upright, get that diaphragm open, get the chest back, get the shoulders up, and then look at it. Should it be right at about eye level, okay? I have mine set so I can just about see over the top of it, and that's about right for me, okay? It'll help you improve your cervical curve, and you can also use it as a checkup for your overall posture during the day. So here's the thing. Let's say you're sitting and you're doing a really good job, and it gets to be about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and you notice that that monitor's up here. Sit up. Sit tall. Use it as your benchmark. Those eyes need to be at that level all day long. And I promise you this, if you go to a standing posture or an appropriate seated posture, it will take a couple of weeks to get used to it. But once you do, you'll be so much stronger. At first you'll feel a little bit tired, it's going to be hard to hold that posture, but once you get used to it, it gets really easy. Okay? Make sure your monitor's straight away too, by the way. Sometimes I have people say, well, I got my desk here because I do a lot of my work, but my monitor's over here. That's a problem, okay? If you're having to turn in your chair and do your work, you're putting a rotation in, and then people wonder, how come I can't hold my adjustment? Well, you've cranked like this all day, you're not going to hold your adjustment. What do I do with my arms? These guys are out here, right? Arms should be near your side but angled down slightly, okay? So here's again that 90-degree rule. We're going to get rid of it. We want those arms down just a little bit, okay? Just to open up that elbow a little bit, okay? We don't have to hold that perfect 90 degrees. There's nothing magical about it, okay? If you have an arm rest and you want to put your arms on it, that's okay. But if you can get by without it, that's great, okay? The only thing I don't like about the arm rest is it can put some pressure right on the nerves that run through the inside of the elbow, okay? So if you're leaning on those all day, sometimes that can be a problem. And the other problem is if you got really good armrests, sometimes you get like this, okay? So if you can get away without the armrest, go ahead. It's really good. Wrists. Okay, these little foam wrist rests, okay? Be careful with your wrist to make sure to support the carpal tunnel while typing. Here's the key. When you type, how many took piano lessons? Anybody take piano lessons? Did they tell you to put your pianos down, your wrists down on the piano when you're playing? Wrists up, right? That's how you're supposed to play piano. I was never very good at piano, but I remember Mr. Westlink used to get after me. Get those wrists up and try to hold them up. It's proper for keyboarding too. This wrist rest, the wrist should not contact the wrist pad while you're typing. Okay? So if you're like laying that thing on here and doing your typing, you're still going to get carpal tunnel problems. You got to get the wrists up a little bit when you're typing if you can. Okay? This is called a rest. It's while you're resting. So if you're sitting there for a second, you're resting your wrist, you're thinking about what to do, and then you go back to typing, you drop them back down, up and down. And it should contact the heel of the hand, not the wrist. This is the delicate carpal tunnel. How many have heard that term, carpal tunnel? Everybody's heard of it, right? 8 bones in the wrist, 2 rows of 4, they make a tunnel. That's why it's called, the carpal bones make a tunnel. That's why it's called carpal tunnel. Everybody know that? So there's 8 bones in the wrist, carpal bones. They need to form this arch, okay? Blood vessels and nerves run inside of that arch, inside of the ligament in there. And if you're compressing it all day long, you're going to cause swelling in there on that nerve. And that's where people get a lot of carpal tunnel problems, okay? We can adjust that, but if you sit like this all day long, you're still going to get problems. Exercises and stretches. At the end of the day, I'm going to show you some exercises. You're all going to be able to do this, this, and this, right?
Sure.
Ridiculous. Okay. Here's some real...
You first.
If you sit on 2 exercise pads, I'll do those stretches, Don. Quick stretch office guide. Hang this in your office. Keep it close to you. There's some simple stretches that you can do. I'm going to go through them real quick because then we're going to run out of time. Sorry. There we go. You can kind of look these over a little bit. They're very simple to do. These are simple things. And I think when I printed this out, it said it was a 2-minute drill. Okay, so you should be able to do these all in 2 minutes. And I want to go over them. Would you like one too, sweetheart? There you go. You could take it to school and do your stretches, right? Okay, so starting with number 12, shake the hands out, 8 to 10 seconds. Notice you're standing, shake them out a little bit, get some movement in there. This isn't just at the beginning of the day, this can be during a 15-minute break. When everybody else that's unhealthy in your office goes out to smoke, you can stand up and do your stretches, right? Do your stretches, get your water. Number 11, she's sitting in the chair and she's kind of just stretching that lumbar spine a little bit. She's forcing that lumbar curve. So she's doing this, okay? If you're on a sit disc, you don't have to worry about this as much, but we're just forcing that lumbar curve. And as you kind of push your butt back and your stomach forward, you'll feel that stretch. Number 10, just stretching the backs of the legs a little bit. So we're on this seated posture, and we're just kind of reaching around and just stretching the outside of that hip, okay? Sometimes